For almost a century now, the US dollar has been the undisputed king of global finance, right? It's the currency of trade, it's the ultimate safe haven, and it's really the bedrock of the entire world economy. It's a system so fundamental, most of us never even give it a second thought. But what if the pillars that have been holding that system up are starting to crack? In this explainer, we are going to dive into 4 forces, geopolitical, technological, financial, and political, that are all converging at the same time, creating what could be a perfect storm for the dollar. You know, to really understand where we're going, we first have to look back at how this whole system was built. What was it that made the dollar so incredibly dominant in the first place? Well, the story really kicks off in 1945. President Roosevelt meets the Saudi king on a ship, the USS Quincy, and they strike a pretty simple bargain. The US provides military protection, and in exchange, Saudi Arabia provides a reliable supply of oil. Then you fast forward to 1971. The Nixon shock completely severs the dollar's last link to gold, just letting it float. So to re-anchor the system, the US formalized what's known as the Petro-Dollar agreement in 1974. This move made sure that oil, the world's most vital commodity, would be bought and sold in US dollars. And this created this brilliant self-reinforcing loop. Think about it. Every country needed dollars to buy oil, and the oil-producing nations, they were suddenly flooded with all these dollars, which they then recycled back into the system by buying US Treasury bonds. This created this constant, massive demand for the dollar. It kept US borrowing costs artificially low, and it gave America what people often call an exorbitant privilege. Basically, the ability to buy stuff from overseas and issue debt in its own currency. For 80 years, that system looked unshakable. But now the cracks are really starting to show. The first force that's really challenging the dollar is the breakdown of the very deal that started it all, that oil for security pact. The trust that held it all together, it's really starting to fray. What was once a simple bargain has become, well, a complex mess of distrust. From the Saudi perspective, after drone attacks hit their oil facilities back in 2019, and the US response was, let's say, limited, that security guarantee started to look a little unreliable. So now, they're diversifying their alliances, pivoting towards China. And from the US side, well, you've got a new Saudi leadership that's cooperating with Russia and OPEC+, and normalizing relations with Iran, which has made Washington question if Saudi Arabia is still a dependable partner. And this brings us to a really crucial point. That 50-year-old Petro-Dollar agreement, it informally expired in June of 2024. Now, look, it was never a formal signed on the dotted line treaty, but its end is hugely symbolic. Saudi Arabia is now officially free to sell its oil in other currencies, like the Chinese yuan, which, by the way, it's already exploring. The core geopolitical pillar of dollar dominance has a major crack in it. For decades, even if countries wanted an alternative to the dollar, there wasn't really a viable one. The dollar system was the only game in town. But the second force changing everything is technology. For the first time ever, new financial rails exist that can bypass the dollar system completely. The key technology we're talking about here is the central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Now, this is not Bitcoin. A CBDC is a digital version of a country's official currency, so it's issued and backed by its central bank. It's state money, just in a new digital form. And it's really important to understand the two different types. You have the retail version, think of it as digital cash for you and me, which has been pretty slow to take off in the West because of privacy concerns. But the real revolution, the one that's happening right now, is with wholesale CBDCs. Think of this as digital fuel, just for banks. It's being used as we speak to settle massive international payments instantly, and it is completely rewiring the plumbing of global finance. And the difference is just stark. The old system, called SWIFT, is what banks have used for decades. A payment takes 3 to 5 times days and can cost up to $50. The new system, a CBDC project called mBridge that's being led by China and the UAE, settles that same payment in 15 seconds for just pennies. It's 70% cheaper because it's direct. It completely cuts out the chain of intermediary banks, many of which are based in the US. These new rails aren't just an alternative, they're way, way better. Okay, so we've got a geopolitical motive, and now we have the technological means. That brings us to the third force, the active global push by other nations to de-risk from the dollar. And this isn't just a theory anymore, it's a strategic policy for a growing number of countries. So why the pushback? Well, the heavy use of U.S. financial sanctions has effectively weaponized the dollar, which has forced countries like Russia and Iran to find workarounds. But it's not just them. Even U.S. allies are seeking what they call strategic autonomy, the ability to trade without needing a green light from America. And this has led to a really powerful physical sign of distrust. Countries are literally pulling their physical gold bars out of vaults in New York and London and taking them home. Just take France, a key U.S. ally. Between 2025 and 2026, it plans to repatriate 129 metric tons of gold from the New York Fed. This isn't just some accounting trick. It's a powerful signal that they are moving toward operational independence and hedging against their reliance on the U.S. to hold their assets. Germany, the Netherlands, Poland, they've already done the same thing. So we have these three major forces piling up from the outside. But the fourth, and arguably the most dangerous force, is an internal one. The dollar is also being weakened from within by America's own financial situation. Back in 1980, the U.S. national debt was about 30% of its GDP, a pretty manageable number. By 2026, that figure is projected to hit 120%. That is a four-fold increase. For a long time, the U.S. has been able to run up this incredible debt largely because the Petro-Dollar system created all this artificial demand for its bonds. But here's the trap that creates. This massive debt severely limits the country's fiscal space. Back in the 80s, Fed Chair Paul Volcker could hike interest rates to 20% to fight inflation and strengthen the dollar. If the Fed tried to do that today with over $30 trillion in debt, it would be catastrophic. The interest payments alone would risk blowing up the entire U.S. budget. So the main weapon you have to defend your currency, it's been severely weakened. So let's put it all together. You've got a crumbling geopolitical pact, a disruptive new technology, a global push for alternatives, and severe internal constraints. These four forces are all hitting at once, leading us into a new, totally uncharted financial reality. There's actually a term for this period. Academics are calling it a financial interregnum, which is basically a fancy way of saying it's a time when the old system is dying, but a new one hasn't been born yet. The dollar's singular dominance is weakening, for sure, but there's no single currency that's ready to take its place. The result is just a messier, more fragmented, and multipolar financial world. So what does this actually mean for all of us? Well, it doesn't mean the dollar is going to collapse tomorrow. Instead, what we'll probably see is the rise of regional currency blocks, a yuan-based bloc in Asia, a euro bloc in Europe. This will almost certainly bring more volatility to energy and currency markets. And for the US, the end of that exorbitant privilege could mean higher interest rates, more expensive imports, and more persistent inflation, because the rest of the world is no longer forced to subsidize its debt. For 80 years, the world played a financial game with a very clear set of rules, and those rules were written in Washington. Now, for the first time in generations, those rules are being fundamentally rewritten. The only question left is, who's going to hold the pen?